I've chosen delusion. I've taken the blue pill. That's why they can't self-reflect very well. They're very solipsistic. Hard blue pill. Put me in that matrix pod. Reality stinks. You're all the same clumped entity. But I have to look in the mirror to relate to you, to see how I look through your eyes. And they're all the way inside. We are tools. We're not people. We can't be seen as people. Unaccessible. It's a bunker that protects them from reality. So welcome to the seminar. We're going to be exploring a different way of looking at narcissism and at narcissistic abuse. It's divided into 4 sections. What we're going to be looking at today is section 1. I'm going to give you a new way of thinking about the structure of the narcissistic personality. Second section, we're going to be looking at a new potential approach to the diagnosis of NPD by remapping the personality disorder from scratch. This is tentative, it's not absolute, and it's not fully developed. We're going to be looking at a different way of looking at the progress of a narcissistically abusive relationship based on the new way of looking at the structure. And we're going to look at a new way of approaching healing from narcissistic abuse rooted in the above 3 insights. So, here we go. The narcissistic personality exists largely between 2 pillars. The 2 pillars that you need to understand. Do you all know what a superego introject is? Don't be sad if you don't. A superego introject is the superego itself, is what Freud called the Über-Ich. So you have your ego, which is your sense of self. It's the boundary. My ego is my boundary between me and other people and me and reality. Above that, that's the Ich. And then Freud posited the Über-Ich, the over-self. So it's like a parent speaking down into the ego. What happens is when you're growing up, the people around you in the environment, they give you messages and you internalize those messages. They tell you how to live in the world. The messages largely divide into 2 polarities, good and bad, love and hate. So the superego gives the ego messages about that which is good and life-affirming and safe, and that which is bad. This is about your behavior and about you. It's external and internal. You will be told you are a good little boy, you are a good little girl, you are a bad little boy, you are a bad little girl. That's your identity. That's your sense of self, of who you are. Good, bad, lovable, hateable. It's also about your behavior. So if you go out and do something that is dangerous, presumably the members of your tribe will say, don't do that. There are snakes over there, you get bitten and die. If you do something that is good and life-affirming, they'll say, that's good, keep doing that, it's a good thing. The superego records these messages. It records and faithfully replays. This is psychoanalytic theory. It records and replays the messages. So if I say, you are good, and what you are doing when you do this is good, the superego will internalize that and continue to play it for life, whether it's true or not. It has 0 quality control, none. If you're raised in an abusive environment and you're told, you are bad, no matter what you do, it is bad because you are bad, that internalizes and the superego goes, well, I guess I should keep recording and replaying that message, and it continues in that way. These messages, the recordings, they are, I don't know why psychiatry does this. Instead of just saying internalize, they say introjected. They're introjected. And the messages are called injunctions, your superego injunctions. They will largely split in all of us, in all of humanity, not just people with NPD, as good and bad. So in that sense, your superego kind of functions like a conscience. It could be said to function as a conscience. It's telling you this is a good thing to do in our culture, in our society, in our tribe. This is what we do and it is good. In our society, in our culture, in our tribe, this is what we don't do because it is bad. If you do the good thing, you are good. If you do the bad thing, you are bad. So largely speaking, all children, when they grow up, all of humanity lives inside of a dichotomous split. When you see issues in society, culture, war, playing out and you're observing it and you're thinking, wow, this is weird, the way people have chosen two sides and no other option, it's because from birth we are instructed to do that. We are a dichotomous creature. But these dichotomies are not a reflection of reality. They're always somewhat neurotic. So you end up with what Gadsard has called epistemological dichotomania. Epistemological dichotomania. It means basically the overuse of these superego injunctions and splitting. Splitting is key. Splitting is key. I'm going to explain splitting to everybody, but the idea comes from the twin pillars. So you imagine the narcissistic child. Imagine I'm the narcissistic child. That pillar over there and this pillar over here are split. I have one parent, let's make it very, very simple. I have one parent saying, you are angelic and wonderful. So over in this polarity, I'm receiving fantasy-based feedback. I'm not angelic. I am not a God on earth, but this parent, for whatever personal reason, whatever mental health issue they have, is telling me, you are amazing. You are wonderful. For the simplest things, I'm being overpraised. Overpraised. This is a key word that we've lost when we have the modern narrative on narcissism. We're not talking about overpraising. Why is there a blind spot there? Because we're in a moment in culture where overpraising children is seen as good. Good. That's good. Boundaries for children? Bad. Tell your children off? Bad. Overpraising? Very good. Why? Duh, psychology. So no thought. It's just if you have boundaryless overpraising, the results are going to be good. I just wanted to make you feel awkward. Welcome. So if it's overpraising, that's an essential component of narcissism. Did you all know that? No, because where is the most amount of material on narcissistic abuse coming from? The internet. It far outstrips the rate at which academics can publish. It far outstrips it. So the thick end of the wedge of the narrative around narcissism is coming from the internet. It's coming from people like me. This is not a good thing because most of the people who you're watching on YouTube aren't reading the research and they're not trying to read the research. They're trying to get likes and follows. It's capitalism. Terrible thing. Capitalism, writ large. So you have psychological capitalism at play. So overpraising was known to be a key part of the formation of narcissistic personality disorder. It was a given in the 1970s. They never stopped talking about it. You're overpraising children, you'll create narcissism. You're telling them that they're better than better. They're better than they could possibly be through any finite or boundaried way. There's no measure to it. They're just wonderful, whatever they do. On the other pillar over here, remember, I'm the narcissist. Hard to imagine, I know. On this pillar over here, I'm receiving all bad messaging. No matter what I do, it is bad. In psychoanalytic theory, this is called being a bad object. So I internalize the idea of my own ego state as bad. I am a bad object. I am not lovable. Is there love or hate here? Hate. Imagine that. A small child, perhaps the parents are alcoholic, perhaps the parents are drug addicts, perhaps they're psychopaths, perhaps the child is, for cultural reasons, unlovable for some immutable trait, which happens sometimes, tragically. I'm told I'm worthless and I'm useless. If I'm only told I'm very, very good and angelic, or only told this, the result will not be narcissistic personality disorder. I claim. Some people will say overpraising alone creates narcissism. It doesn't. It creates a narcissistic trait, but not narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder, for those of you who are familiar with the tarot cards, if I can go Jungian for a second, if you know the High Priestess card, she's between two polarities. She's between two pillars, Hurricane and Boaz. And the idea is that when you look at the cards, you should consider dynamic tension. The priestess in that card is considered harmony, but she's harmony, yin and yang. She's the point of harmony between 2 points of dynamic tension, which is a nice card. It's a card of insight, a card of intuition when well aspected. Now imagine the card poorly aspected. No intuition or intuition that only leads to malicious intent. So imagine me as a child. I'm the narcissistic personality disorder child in training. I'm stuck between two polarities that are dragging me in two different directions. Both of the messages are fantastical. There is no realistic feedback in this environment. There's no sanity here. That's a lunatic thing to say to a child. You're wonderful, whatever you do. This is a lunatic thing to say to a child. You're evil no matter what you do. And what happens? My mind begins to split. It's too much stress. I start to fragment. So I am now splitting. My mind is splitting. It's being pulled in two different directions. So, how do I cope with this? Narcissistic personality disorder is a post-traumatic stress response, or you could consider it a complex post-traumatic stress response, CPTSD response, to a brutally harsh environment of lunatic injunctions and lunatic feedback that are contradictory. They must contradict each other. So I'm in a really dark, really perverse, really evil version of Alice in Wonderland. That's my childhood. But it's nasty, all of it. So what do? I start to withdraw. So you have a child trying to cope with these two different interjects, these two messages. You are evil, you are wonderful. And I'm becoming confused. So I'm going between the two. These messages across time from the ages of 0 to 8 are becoming interjected. I'm told I'm amazing and wonderful at once. This creates cognitive dissonance. You all know what cognitive dissonance is? It's a feeling of unbearable stress that comes from trying to hold two completely contradictory messages at the same time. I'm being told I'm wonderful, but I'm being sexually abused, physically abused, and psychologically abused. I'm being told I'm evil, and yet sometimes I'm being spoiled, and when an audience is there, I'm being praised for my amazing ability at mathematics, physics, piano. I'm being told I'm very pretty, very good looking, and all of these kind of boundary-breaking things. So you have, which side is this? Is this good or bad? Good. Horosho. Good over here, bad over there, and it's driving me completely mad. So I withdraw into a narcissistic shell. For me, this is the key. If you want to talk about people with narcissistic traits, they are all treatable. Normal talk therapy will deal with narcissistic traits. As long as the person wants to go and they can bother their ass to pay and occasionally cry in front of a therapist, they'll be fine. The same way we all will. Narcissistic traits and narcissistic personality disorder are two different planets because of this. This shell forms in childhood. And the purpose of this shell is, please write this down if you're taking notes, to keep reality out. No. This shell says no. And it's a hard, aggressive no. How does this help us when we're adults and you go to your therapist and you say, why does my husband do this? Why is my wife talking to me like this? When I present her with evidence of wrongdoing, why does it seem to bounce off and come back onto me? The shell. The shell. No. Not me, you. Not me, you. It's when you're trying to decipher the communication of narcissistic abuse, look for the no. Look for the no. You look for the big denial. I, the child, believe wrongly that I'm safe inside of this shell. So the shell is a shell of denial. It's a protective shield. It has two functions. Function number one, it keeps data out. These are people who are literally working their asses off to keep reality at bay. So when you sweet and innocently say, can't I go to therapy with them? Can't we figure this out? Like, how? They're not interested. You're trying to have adult-to-adult conversations that they're not capable of. And in all due compassion, I'm not even at the point of saying we should give up hope on people with narcissistic personality disorder. What I will say to you is, you're not going to fix your mum. You're not going to fix your dad. You're not going to fix your wife. You're not going to fix your husband. It probably is fixable, but not by you and not through a relationship. It must be through therapy. You can't love them better. You can't relate to them better. Somebody with narcissistic traits, maybe. Sliding scale of narcissistic traits, that's a spectrum. Who knows? And which traits they have and everything else. But with narcissistic personality disorder, it's a shield. The purpose of the shield is to keep reality at bay. You all understand why. My external reality is awful. I'm being abused. I'm being spoiled, and then I'm being negatively abused at the same time. It's maddening. I have to block it out. The shield blocks it out. I form this in childhood, and I practice it with every waking breath. I choose delusion. I've chosen delusion. I've taken the blue pill, hard blue pill, put me in that matrix pod. Reality stinks. Let me out. And they're all the way inside of this shield, deeply, inaccessible. It's a bunker that protects them from reality. The other function of the egg is internally, it's like a fantasy show. It's like the matrix pod. So they're not just in there on their own, keeping reality at bay. They're having a lovely time in there. They're having the time of their lives because they're living their best life. They're living a fantasy version of themselves. It's the grandiose false self. Now that's linguistically, that's good psychological language, but linguistically, I don't think it's good language for clients. I don't think it's good language for victims. I think it's easier if you say they're inside of a fantasy-based matrix pod, because most people have seen the matrix or they know what the concept is. When you think about a human being who's gone inside of a pod, they've escaped reality and they're being fed an illusion. So the shield, the egg is a shield and a place from which fantasy comes. Does reality get in? Well, yeah. Obviously, they know your name, they know your face, they recognize you. But when they see you, this is a bit of object relations theory that we won't go deeply into today. So in object relations theory, you have subject and object. So their idea of other. Do they see you as other? Are they sat inside the shell seeing you as a separate person? No. In order to relate to you, they have to suck you inside of the shell, and then they deal with their fantasy version of you. But once you've I know this is a bit, like people looking at me with their eyes doing the spirally thing. So I'm a narcissist, and I meet you, and I want to have a relationship, a friendship with this man. I go, yes, I think he suits my needs. I can draw narcissistic supply from him. I take him and put him inside of my fantasy space. But when he passes through this wall, whole bits of him drop off. There's a whole story of who this human being is that I have zero interest in. So when you relate to them, you're only relating inside the egg. Do you understand? No relating exists outside of the fantasy space. So when you throw the gauntlet down and say, listen here, we need to have a damn good chat about this, like two adults, they're like, yeah, cool, come in. Step into my office. You're in Alice in Wonderland all over again. You're now having a fantasy-based conversation inside of a matrix space where they're not even talking to you. You've all had the experience, I'm sure, where a narcissist seems to know you, and then one day they'll do or say something. They'll say, well, you really like X, or you really don't like Y. And you'll be like, who the fuck are you talking to? Who's that? Is that your mum? Is that your dad? Is that your last boyfriend? That ain't me. No, do you remember the time when? And this is where we get the issues around memory, the issues around understanding, because all reality, this is a dense shield wall, and it corrodes reality, it corrupts it. It has to. They can't deal with reality straight, so they distort, delete, and generalize. This also has that function of distortion, deletion, and generalization. They make huge generalizations about you as a human being. And so you're as good as anybody else, sorry to say. That's why we're so replaceable. You're all the same clumped entity. To me, the narcissist, I don't really care whether it's you or you. As long as I'm getting what I want, we are tools. We're not people. We can't be seen as people. So when you're sat there going, oh, with compassion, as a good Buddhist, I can appeal to their humanity. It's game, it's game, it's game. And it's not that they're really high-level con artists trying to run game on you. It's that they are broken. Their perceptions are broken. Their reality is broken. Their self-concept is broken. And there's this monstrous machine operating in its place as a response to the two polarities that were pulled apart in childhood. So when you're interacting and when you're trying to get therapy for this, this is what you need to remember. This is where, when you related to a narcissist and you had a relationship with them, you didn't have it in the real world. You had it in their world. Anybody struggling to release a narcissistic relationship that happened 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, you're still here. You're still in the fantasy space. The narcissist is kind of irrelevant. They're kind of irrelevant also. Because if you're still in that fantasy space and you get rid of them, what happens? You find another one. Because you're now there. They've pulled you into that space. You'll find another one, and another one, and another one. And I don't want to project, but in the trajectory of my life, each one was worse than the last. Each one got worse and worse. Like, the turbulence didn't get better. I was like, bloody hell, this is insanity now. It gets worse and worse and worse. Probably the reason for this is because of the childhood trauma of the introject. So if you've received bad introjects, I was never in a narcissistically abusive relationship in my whole life until I stopped speaking to my father. I only found this out recently. Consider when you got into a narcissistically abusive relationship in your life. If you change something or move forward or had a therapeutic advancement or integration or realization, that can be the trigger for a narcissistically abusive relationship. But that's novel, as far as I know. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. Why? Because I needed to continue to be abused. I needed a replacement for my father. Father's a very bad man. Psychopath. He ended up in prison for very nasty reasons involving children. And so I found women who were as psychopathic, as evil, as exploitative, as cold, and as sadistic as he was. It started mild, like a mild replacement, then a little bit more nasty replacement. And then when I kept defying, now this isn't happening in the external world. You could use like allegories of demons. Like, you defied one demon and you get away from one demon, so they send an even worse demon from hell. Yeah, if you like. Transactional analysis language, I defied my own introject, and the introject kicks back harder. Does that make sense? I have my father inside of me, and when I defy him in reality by saying, I ain't talking to you anymore, you're a bad man, his introject is still living inside of my introjected space and saying, oh, really, you little fucker? Let's see about this. And then that's why I'll be like, I found this girl. She seems to be great, but she's abusing me. Before that, there was nothing. I had girlfriends with issues, like mental health issues, but nothing like this. The last 3 girlfriends has gotten worse every single time. And there's another difficult thing, and I don't know how to phrase this for when it goes public. Based on the understanding I have I'm in therapy, transactional analysis therapy, it is possible that I'm training them to some degree to abuse me in exactly the way that I want. Now, when I go public with this, I have to be very fucking careful how I phrase that. Very fucking careful. Because a lot of people who are not doing the therapy and not doing the work will hear, oh, so you made them abuse you. So I made my husband do that. No. I have a need. I need to be exploited like this. I need someone who's going to steal. My father stole money from me. You better steal money from me. And covertly, unconsciously, because we all have this to a degree. The difference between me and a full-blown NPD and you and a full-blown NPD is that you can have breaks in your narcissistic shell. We all blue pill. We all retreat into fantasy. But a healthy human being has an ability to bridge to reality. With more therapy, there are more openings until one hopes you would not need a fantasy space. You can just relate to people adult to adult. That's the hope. Maybe. Who knows? Nobody's perfect. What the point is, we can make it better. But we're all living inside of a fantasy space to some degree. Every relationship has a narcissistic component to it. Yes. Every relationship has a narcissistic component to it. We all use relationships narcissistically. The narcissist, romantic and sexual relationships, just romantic and sexual relationships always have a narcissistic component. Why? The fantasy is there to help me withdraw from reality. What's addictive about a romantic and sexual relationship? It gives you a retreat from reality. You relate to each other as 2 children. You can go back into a vulnerable childhood space. That is a beautiful thing. It's not a bad thing. It can become healthy, but both of you better be doing the work. both of you have to have done some work. Because unless you find a person who was just raised in a perfect unicorn-topia, wonderful family unit, and some people were raised in nice family units. I don't know any of them, but I'm sure they exist. Like in Oprah Winfrey land, I love Oprah Winfrey land. It's like two people should just be equal and fair and speak. Yeah, okay, they should. However, the rest of us out here didn't have like such a nice childhood. So that's the function of the egg. Excuse me. Oh, AJ, could my battery's dying here, lad. Oh, wait, I'm not plugged in. Oh, no, I am plugged in. Oh, what have I done? Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, that's not good, is it? Do you have another thing? I don't. Higher voltage charger for it? I don't have another USB-C charger. Oh, I didn't think about that. Because that's the feed, isn't it?
I think, do you normally use that plug to charge your laptop?
Yeah. But right now, it's plugged into there.
Right, let's try it in. Can you bring that a bit closer?
Yeah.
Let's try it here.
But then that kills the feed onto the screen then, doesn't it?
No?
Doesn't it? Oh, okay, we're fixed.
Yeah, because we've got 2 ports there.
Oh, okay, thanks, mate.
I've got an adapter, I've got a power bank.
Oh, sound. Yes, question, quickly, yeah?
The twin pillars.
Yeah.
Good, bad messaging.
Yeah.
Parent, bad parent.
Yeah.
Can that be the same individual?
Yes.
Time switching between the two?
Yes, great question. Did you all get that? Yeah. It's not mummy bad, daddy good. It could be mum's not around and daddy drinks. When he's sober, he's like this. When he's drunk, he's like that. I've even seen a thing, I've seen it twice recently, one with a girl and one with a boy. They're both adults, a man and a woman. The man, the father left and the mother felt very guilty. And so she occasionally spoiled him and occasionally abused him. But he then became a drug dealer and a gangster in a tourist-style city in a Balkan country. And he was the man. He was the boy. So the streets spoiled him. He was spoiled by the streets. He could do no wrong. Everyone loves him. The police are protecting him because he's paying them. He has the best life imaginable. So his polarity was home and street. I'm sure there are examples out there where it's been home and church, home and cult, home and school. For me, it was school. Like, home was shit. But then when I was sent to boarding school, because I'd gotten used to being like codependently manipulative of the adults in the environment to get what I wanted from them, my boarding school teachers were putty in my hand. Everybody loved me. And so I was aware that there was like a sort of an institutional narcissism that can kick in because I didn't follow the rules of the other kids when I was at private school. I was like on some, and the other kids would be like, what, this isn't fair. But I was really good at manipulating people because I was raised in a psychopathic environment. By the time I was 12, I was like a mini Hannibal Lecter. so I didn't eat anyone. I just bit them a little. So it can be institutions, it could be society, it could be culture. I wonder right now how many people on social media are getting it. You know, kids coming up, digital natives, young ones, shit home life, but they're amazing on Instagram. Getting all those likes and follows, getting that dopamine hit. And it's really got the capacity to, that would be the first generation where narcissistic personality disorder is created by algorithms and artificial intelligence. Wow. We're into a new world. We're into a new world that's going to change very, very rapidly before our eyes. That's why I think we need to get a grip of this. The thing with psychology, there's a couple of things I'd say about psychology generally. Most people think the study of psychology is the study of therapy. How many of you studied psychology? It's not therapy, is it? Like I went to a psychology degree and they're like, welcome, this is behavioral psychology. We put rats in mazes. And I was like, what about Freud? Like, no Freud, no Jung, no therapy. It's not like there's, I'm sure in our imaginations we'd think psychotherapy, psychiatry, counseling, psychology, there's just thousands of academics out there feverishly working to get problems like this fixed. There isn't. It doesn't work like that. They're trying to get papers published. They're trying to make money. They're trying to further their career. There's very well-intentioned people in that space who are feverishly working, but they're not. There's barely any money in it. They're doing it because they love it. They're doing it because that's what they want to do for their clients. But the establishment of psychology isn't going to be doing that much for it. But yeah, coming back to your point, it could be two people, or it could be the different personalities in a person, or it could be culture and structures outside of the family unit. So this is the next part. The reason I'm showing you this is when you, as a therapist or as a client, when you have questions, come back to the structure. Why do they do this? Look at the structure. Because their way, you've all been bewildered by narcissistic behavior, right? Sometimes you're just like, are you fucking kidding me? What are you doing? Because sometimes it's self-destructive, right? Sometimes you're just like, even if you were a gold digger or a psychopath or you just wanted power, you've just done the most self-destructive thing imaginable. It's a perverse personality disorder. And I don't just mean sexually, though there is that element to it. It works against itself because these poles are not stable. They're not stable. Some days the good polarity is working better. Some days it's the bad polarity that's working better. And that's where you see narcissistic elation and narcissistic depletion. Those are confused face at the back. Narcissistic elation, is it the planes? You can't hear very well. Narcissistic elation is a way of saying, narcissistically, I'm high, and if you imagine me as like a tick or a leech, my desire for blood is fulfilled. I'm full. I got my narcissistic supply when I'm feeling good. I'm full. I'm turgid. In narcissistic depletion, I've not got my narcissistic supply, and I'm shriveled, and I'm small, and I'm weak. So when I'm narcissistic elated, we call this grandiose narcissism, which I believe is not a subtype. I believe it's a strategy. So if I've successfully conned the room, because I'm the narcissist, and they gave me positive feedback, I'm the man. I can do whatever I want. I'm confident, I'm glib, I'm psychopathic. If the room gives me negative feedback and they're really not feeling what I'm saying and I go into narcissistic depletion, my inner voice kicks off, the bad introject saying, see, you're a piece of shit, aren't you? I told you were. You're useless. Nobody likes you. You remember Lord of the Rings? Gollum? You never saw Lord of the Rings? You saw it. You remember Gollum? You've not seen Lord of the Rings? Homework for you all. The portrayal of Gollum, you see his split because he was sort of a hobbit type creature. What were they? Go on, some nerd in the room must know what the other hobbit. They're like fisher people. So sort of a good-natured hobbit, but he's lured by a bait, the power of the ring, and he kills someone. He kills one of his mates, and he becomes decrepit and wretched in his lust for the ring. But there's still the good part of him with the addict part of him, and it's really well acted, it's really well animated, and he'll be with his hobbit mates saying, they're good hobbits, we love the hobbits, they love us, and then the bad part turns around and says, nobody likes you. Nobody, they hate you. They're going to kill you. He actually says us. They hate us. They'll kill us. So that's narcissistic elation. I'm feeling good. Narcissistic depletion. I've got no narcissistic supply. I feel wretched. And the fight that you see narcissists go through is they're between the two poles. I put the good one over there, didn't I? Yeah. So I'm trying to fight to get over there, but I'm terrified of this. That's why I'm not calm. That's why I'm moody. That's why I'm swinging up and down. If you see somebody and you say, this narcissist that I know was always narcissistically elated, that's because they're very, very skilled at gathering a high-quality source of narcissistic supply. If they're not, if they're wretched and they're frequently in depletion, then you'll see someone who's more vulnerable, someone who cries. They'll tell you they're sorry. They'll be like, I'm such a piece of shit. I can't believe I did that to you. That's because they're... the negative introjectors has taken over, the negative polarity has taken over. I'll give you a break in a minute, I promise.
Richard, could you please turn the heating up, temperature up?
Turn it up. Slightly. Your nose is cold. Good. Listen, you must be strong. I just don't want to sweat on camera, that's what it is. My nose is running as well. So here we come to something that's not understood at all. The thing about the two introjects is understood. It's not understood thoroughly. We're going to get into the impacts for narcissistic abuse. and the impacts for recovery from narcissistic abuse using the egg and the two pillars, the two polarities model, the mirror is very, very important. Very, very important. So let's go back to my childhood. I have MPD. When I receive good feedback, here's a claim. Here's a claim. I'm claiming, this is not the orthodoxy. When I receive good feedback, I never receive it for being. I'm never just a good, lovable little boy because I'm a human being. It is always for something I do. It is always performance-based, and it doesn't come direct. It comes through the mirror. So I have to perform, and it's mirrored, and inside of the mirror, I have an audience. So imagine this is literally a mirror, and there's my audience. I'm looking at you, looking at me through the mirror. Take a note that says, the narcissist is always looking at themselves through your eyes. Thank you. 40 minutes, and I said one interesting thing. Thank you, madam. And we finished. Goodbye. The narcissist is never looking at you. They're looking at themselves through your eyes. So that's why they can't self-reflect very well. They're very solipsistic, because the entire time, so I want to relate to you, but I have to look in the mirror to relate to you, to see how I look through your eyes. It's exhausting for them and exhausting for you, because you're constantly talking through this third entity. So their image of themselves, I mean, imagine how hard that would be. I'm talking to you, but instead of concentrating on you and listening to anything you have to say, I'm like, I wonder how I look if I stand like this. And then I have to create a simulation based on, she's sat lower than me, so she's looking up. How must I look to her now? How do I look to them now? How do I look to them now? She's smiling now. I must look funny now. So when you see this glaze in their eyes, and they forget what you're talking about, and they're off in the clouds, and you're like, is this some sort of dissociative disorder? They're checking, how do I look? How do I look? How do I look? They look in the mirror for feedback from an audience. Always, always, always. And then people come to me and say, what about therapy? And I think, oh, for fuck's sake. What do you think they're going to do during therapy? This. How do I look? What's the therapist think about me now? What's the therapist thinking now? I'll show him, I'll do my vulnerable child routine. Oh, you know, doctor, when I was a child. And it's routine, routine, routine. It's performance, performance, performance. So you say, give me your vulnerability. If you're going to go to therapy and perform, God help you. The therapist will take your money for 6-7 years. It's not their fault. We all do this, by the way. This is transactional analysis again. We all play games all the time. We all perform. The only question they ask in transactional analysis is not whether am I playing a game, it's what game am I playing. But this, I'm claiming, is happening inside of a shell. There's no breaks. So presumably, if you've been to therapy, you're aware that it's important to tell the therapist the truth. I hope. Seriously, I have mates, I send them to therapy and I'm like, just tell them the truth. One of my mates said to me, she's a lovely girl, she's a film director, she said, I didn't want to hurt his feelings. That's his job. It's his job. Hurt his feelings. Tell him, I just gave him an edited version instead. I said, no, tell him everything and let the therapist deal with it. Go vulnerable. Let the therapist see it. All of it. Ooh, it's horrible though. That's their job. They'll be okay. They're in therapy. They do supervision. It's not, you don't have to edit. See the narcissism in that. Now I'm checking how I look to my therapist. Sorry, just one sec, just finish that one point. We all have narcissistic defenses. We all do things in our lives narcissistic, like I mentioned romance, sexual romance. I'm fleeing from reality into a fantasy. Am I doing it to exploit the other person and ruin their lives? No, I'm doing it sincerely. I'm doing it because I'm in love. And yet you can still see the narcissism, the narcissistic structure, right? The narcissistic structure is still there. Can we eradicate that? Can we move beyond it? I hope so, inshallah. We would transcend it. But that takes work. That takes time. Yes.
So my question is like talking about when they were looking back at themselves, but
Yeah.
if you are a victim or if you are a people pleaser or if you are any other sort of things going on,
Yeah.
if you all have some sort of narcissism in ourselves, like otherwise we can survive. you might be checking that what am I if I'm doing something, if I'm saying am I saying the right thing, and
Yeah.
you're constantly looking for feedback.
Yes.
You constantly are looking at the other person.
Yes. So what I'm suggesting with all of this is you'll see yourself in all of this, because this is actually a normal response that's become neurotic. So when's it neurotic would be the question, right? So when it's very, very maladaptive and it's causing damage in your life and damage to the people around you. If you're if it's causing, so we could say something like this, to use old-fashioned psychology language. It's neurotic when it hurts you and hurts the people around you. It's psychotic when you do it deliberately. So people with narcissistic personality disorder, my claim is deliberately ruin their own lives. And deliberately ruin the lives of others. Yes.
But you have a bridgement, and you try to suffer more connections all your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have that to be in your because you constantly feedback from everybody around you. Not
Yes.
just one person. So like it's unhealthy then as well. So
That's
it's-
neurotic, yeah. It's
Yeah.
neurotic.
But it's not a narcissistic way.
No, because it's not abusive. So we haven't got to what my definition of narcissism would be, but there's no, it's when you do that, you still have empathy. Do you feel entitled to make other people suffer so that you feel better? And that's a hard no. You're just like, no. You're not confused and like, do I feel entitled to make other people suffer? No. Do any of you feel entitled to make other people suffer because you're suffering? But guys, there's no vague boundary between you and NPD. That's a fallacy.
When you just said something about they're destroying other people, but they're doing it to themselves. Do you really believe that they're doing it to themselves and that they're conscious of it? Because, like, I'm not going to go into personal stuff, but my soon-to-be ex, he's like having the time of his life with this new woman,
Yeah.
and I've been discarded like an object after 23 years.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really mind sharing this.
Yeah.
Myself dating.
You're in good company.
I'm in good company. There was a funny Facebook post I found, and it said, if you think being married to a narcissist is hell, try divorcing one, it's hell on steroids. That's been my experience. So what I'd like to ask you is, now I'm kind of looking back, and I feel like I'm watching them, and I see these red flags, and she doesn't see them, and I'm like, I'm like, did he ever love me? I'm like, do they love? Can they genuinely love another person? Because he is like totally into this new woman.
Okay, so let's stick with that for a second. It's not a therapy session, but if I can give you, you've come all this way. So let me have a little, let me have a Socratic interaction with you. So what is love? What would it mean for one person to love another person?
You want me to explain what I think love is?
Yes, please.
I think love is connection, meeting somebody where they're at.
Okay, stop.
Yeah.
Connection and meeting somebody where they're at.
Yeah.
I live inside a shield wall.
So, okay.
I live inside of a shield wall.
I live in an apple.
You can't. My vision of you lives with me. Your introjected version of you lives with me. I've never known you. I can't love because I'm not vulnerable. There's no intimacy. There's no intimacy, there's no vulnerability. How could there be love? If there's no safety, were you safe?
Emotion, no.
No, not once. If it's really narcissistic personality disorder, you've never known 1 second of safety, 1 second of structure and boundaries. You've always been under threat. So it's a hard thing to hear, I was never really loved. Harder yet, maybe, you didn't really love him. You don't know him. There might not be a him there to know. All you've seen is the projection outside of the egg. And that was there to do two things. So we're splitting. We've jumped ahead in the talk, but we're here now. It's either to frighten and intimidate you or to charm you. Because I'm either a bad boy or a good boy. So you're going to do as I fucking say, or else I'm going to shag someone else, or I'm going to... And you've had both. We all have. That's the maddening thing. That's what drives you crazy. And the recovery from this will take time, but not that long. I claim, if we look at the actual problem. Because if you just stick in analysis paralysis and all of the different ways in which narcissism can play out, you get addicted to this dopamine release of recognition, validation. Oh yeah, oh that was like me. That was like me. But you're very focused on them. And what we need to resolve is the split in you. So he splits reality, and now he split you. So we have to resolve the split, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. I'm just going to finish on this mirror point. Jacob, I'm so sorry I keep wiping my nose. I'm so sorry, audience. I was supposed to have an operation on my nose. The ENT said that my nose was too small and my tongue was too big. And I was like, I don't. Can I put that on my Tinder profile? She said, it's terribly thick. I went to her, no. Stop it. Stop it. Thank you. It's such a dark subject. But everything can be fixed with a thick tongue, Jacob. So the mirror is the dissociative element. I saw a lot of lights going off for you when I said they seem to dissociate when you're talking to them. That's why they're doing it. Makes sense, right? They've got to come back. They've got to check in with the superego. So imagine, let's take a moment of compassion. Imagine living between two powerful structures, these two pillars, and the bad one is watching like the eye of Sauron. You fucking up, are you? You know what happens when you... And it's the threat. They're living under threat. So when you come and say, hey, I saw texts on your phone, and they go nuts. They're terrified because bad father, bad mother, demonic entity is going to fly in. And the state that they go into, it's not like you do when you have your emotional flashbacks and you have your negative superego injunctions, because you have an ego to protect you. You have something of an adult. We're on a sliding scale of recovery, I know. But there's nobody with MPD in the room. So you have an ego that can fight a superego injunction. They don't. There's no ego. There's no ego. There's only a shell, a fantasy-based shell, and the superego injunction is inside. So when their superego injunction is inflamed, they go all the way down. That's where you see, some of you may have experienced this, the narcissistic rage and narcissistic depression. And the person disappears. They disappear. There's no human there because the negative superego injunction has really taken them. So a little bit of compassion. They are, at times, they're living their best life, or they seem to. I don't know what's going on internally. He may be doing this all for you. He may be with this girl the entire time. Is she looking at me? What do I look like now? I'll post this. I wonder, but he's not with her. So she'll be like, oh, he's charming and nice, but he's a bit distant, you know. And that's a very, so in the early phases, she's doing her early phase idealization phase that she'll be reporting to her therapist and watching my YouTube videos in 2 years' time.
He's not on social media. Well, he's not on, I've never seen him on social media.
So we then have the last element of this that I want to convey to you. It's not very nice, but you need to have it there in your head. The skull. So we have all this magical imagery, the pillars, the mirror, the egg, and then the skull. Remember this little boy who was terrified of his environment and retreated into a fantasy behind the shield wall? When there's a lack of, you all know this because you're all psychologically fluent, when there's a lack of connection with other human beings, a child dies, a baby dies. You can feed the baby, you can make sure it's warm enough, but if it's not being held and it's not being cooed over and there isn't, it literally needs to look at a human face that's looking to it with positivity. If you don't have that, you grow up with pretty serious mental health issues. This is research from 2016. So they need a human face. If they don't have that as babies, they grow up with an inability to recognize human expression. This is one of the places where you see autism and narcissism crossing over. There's a confusion, and this is probably where it comes from. Narcissists are known to not process human expressions very easily. It's almost, so for you, spontaneously, you'd be like, there's a happy face. They'd have to go, smiling, search, smiling, blah, 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 go through the file, smiling equals what? Oh, happy. So there's always this extra processing time, which is why, again, you experience them as having a dissociative disorder, because they're frequently, like, what do you call it, buffering. They're frequently buffering as they're talking to you, like, da, 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 da. It's like artificial intelligence that's not functioning. So with that lack of connection, I die. So this little boy is dead. The human being, that's meant to be a skull. The human being, the authentic, vulnerable self, is dead. I don't think it's always done deliberately. I do know some narcissists and some psychopaths do deliberately kill feelings of compassion, and they'll have an internal dialogue for that. We know this from interviews with serial killers. The first few victims, they might be like, oh, I felt a bit bad, and then I just crushed those feelings down. Career criminals, there sometimes is a fight between the superego injunctions, and humanity tries to come forward. There's a little bit of the child left that has compassion, that says, I feel pain, other people feel pain, and they crush it and they kill it so that there's no more compassion left. If I have a dead child inside of me, I cannot love, I cannot connect. There is no authenticity. There's no authenticity. There's no vulnerability. And so there's no intimacy. And so there's no love. No love for me and no love for you. No love for anyone or anything except as objects of instrumentalization. Brutal, 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 brutal. Better to know this now. Better for your client to know in the therapeutic environment. You'll find your own ways of expressing this and conveying it to clients. That isn't going to break their hearts in session one. But this is where we all need to come to. This then is where we start to say, with compassion, because compassion is a two-way street. Compassion for others without compassion for yourself is just codependency. Compassion for yourself without compassion for others is narcissism. It's a two-way street. The Buddha sometimes portrayed in Tibet and in Japan as holding a double-bladed sword. It's the double cut of compassion. It cuts both ways. If it's cutting one way, that's not compassion. So in all due compassion, you as the client, you as the partner, must give up hope. That doesn't mean that that human being couldn't find the right therapist or go to an ayahuasca ceremony or take DMT or God knows, start chatting to the aliens and channeling or whatever they need to do where they would recover. But that's not your job. It's not your job. And you have to let go of that. So when you as an individual or a client, if you're working with clients, keeps coming back and is saying, well, why do they do this? Why are they so cruel? Even why are they so dumb? Because I think I'm a big advocate of the idea that real intelligence, if it's only academic and it comes from a dead child, is kind of dumb. For wisdom, you have to have the emotion. There has to be emotional intelligence for wisdom to be there. So you'll have academically very high IQ people making very unwise decisions. You may be familiar with some of them. Very unwise. And yes, there's loads. And this is where the self-destruction can come in. Somebody asked me earlier, and I didn't close that loop, can they be truly, truly self-destructive? If the story that they're living inside of their minds would be gratified by a big, explosive, catastrophic ending where they're the biggest victim in the room, then yes, 100% they'll do self-destruction. Oh, I forgot. One more thing about the mirror that I want to share with you. I'm not sure if I'm right on this, so I'm happy to take feedback on it. My conjecture is that narcissists have a very strange relationship with fiction. A very strange relationship with fiction. And I think it's for two reasons. What I've noticed is if you watch a TV show or you both read a book or you both watch a film, they understand the motivations of all the characters to a nuance. And yet, when you present them with similar situations in their life, they don't get it. They're like, oh, I thought people could talk to each other that way. I'm like, we just watched a movie where it was clear that when the guy did this, he was the bad guy in the story. You're doing the same thing. I literally said this to my ex-girlfriend. Are you the good guy in the story or the bad guy in the story? And she was like that. I guess I'd be the bad. I was like, if there was an audience and they saw you do this, would you be good or bad? I guess I'd be bad. And she was really shocked. So there's two levels of my hypothesis. One is they can understand simulated reality, which is what fiction is, whether it's a book or a film, to a nuance, but when it's their reality, they can't. The second thing I would conjecture is they're actually drawing their cues from fiction. So they're actually learning how to live life and tell stories. You might be watching fiction, taking it archetypally, oh, the hero's journey, if we were all a little bit more courageous, we also would be able to throw the ring into Mount Doom, etc., etc. I think they're taking it in a much more immediate way. this is how a person should act. And you're like, you're not literally an elf in Middle Earth. The rules don't apply, but they'll try anyway. So they're actually drawing more of their fantasy self when they're observing fiction. And sometimes you'll even see a weird, almost childlike effort to make fiction real. So you might say to somebody, oh, I saw a movie about Elvis, and the last biopic of Elvis, which was actually a pretty good movie. I really liked it. And you say to your friend, oh, I really like this movie about Elvis. It's pretty cool. I think that you would like it as well. They go out and watch it the next night, on Sunday night, and they show up on Monday dressed as Elvis, with the voice and the hair and the costume. Yes, that happened in real life to me. Yes. And I was like, oh, you enjoyed the film then? I expect you to absorb your fucking identity from it. So I meant to say that before. On the point of the mirror, I claim there's a strange relationship for the narcissist with fiction. It's something I need to look more into. I saw a lot of your heads nodding, so presumably you've seen the same thing. Let's do 5 minutes of questions, and then we'll take a break. Yes, madam, at the back.
Yeah, I'm just wondering that, is that possible that they are not recognizing themselves if they are good or bad, because they lie so much to aim to achieve that goal that they are the character they actually want to be in the fantasy world, that they actually no longer know what is the real, the factual themselves and the fantasy themselves.
Go on.
Yeah, my sister actually just rewrite history, and she's always the good. So
Your sister rewrites history and is always the good. See that
she's always the good.
She's always the good.
Yeah.
Your sister rewrites history. She's always the good.
Yeah, just
Is your sister Joseph
things
Stalin?
happen, some factual things to her, and that never was like that.
So
It doesn't matter how much evidence you have.
yes, I hear you.
It's always.
Yes, I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. Do you see what I just said about fiction? You see the same thing? It's like being an editor for a book. And you're like, well, I just want this character to be cool. And it's like, well, no, the character's done a horrible thing. Yes, but let's ignore that. And then just literally just rewriting reality. If everybody in this room, as an experiment, we were all forced, not forced, but we decided we've got a month and we're all going to be paid our normal salary and we figure out we work. And we're just going to say, for a month, we're going to live like this. Just as an experiment, we're going to try and live a fantasy life, and we'll do it in a safe place where there's no negative consequences for us. Because if you actually did try to do that, the negative consequences would come back pretty quick, right? If you tried to live as a fantasy version of yourself, a lot of people around you would be like, what the fuck, what's wrong with you? Let's say we did. Forget about the effect on other people. What effect would it have on your mind? I think I would start to lose my shit inside of a week. I think I would literally start going crazy because I'd be like, well, we know this from people who do method acting. You know, people who really commit to roles, and they either pick up the injury that the character in the role had. Brad Pitt playing Achilles, damaged his Achilles. When Al Pacino played a blind man, he nearly made himself blind. He walked into a tree and it scratched through his cornea. And on and on. So if you role play this stuff, I think it's damaging. So yeah, I think the hard boundary between fact and fiction does start to disappear. But what I've observed, just to add to that, is we very rarely talk about the narcissistic personality disorder in emotional flashback. So if one of the polarities has gripped the narcissistic person and they're in a deep emotional flashback, they may claim that up is down and black is white. But then if you reapproach them and they're not in flashback, they're back in narcissistic elation, they may say a different story. You've had narcissists tell you different versions of the same event, right? I think they're in such emotionally intense flashbacks, it is almost as though they had dissociative identity disorder. That's person number one. This is person number two. There might be a three, there might be a four, and all of these masks are there fulfilling different roles. So this is how I want to show up today. This is how I feel. This is the effect I want from you. I'm going to have to move on to someone else. Go on, you can ask your last part of that question. Go on.
I just don't understand, to be honest, because even though I'm 50 plus, how they can keep so long this facade, you know, that most of people, even me, believe that they are actually good. And they just keep holding back.
Lifelong skill set? They've been practicing since they were a child.
It's not a facade, is it?
What
To be like,
How can they do it for so long? How can they maintain it? Because most of us with the mask you'd probably give up. You'd probably go mad and give up after a week and just like, I can't do this anymore. I'll move forward in the room at the back there. Yes.
I was just wondering, so where exactly is the line? 'Cause before you mentioned acting, I was thinking, what about art? Like, breaking down boundaries. I find myself thinking very much into movies, and I do identify with characters, but I wouldn't go on and pretend to be one. And I know narcissists do that.
Yeah.
So, like, where is the line? At what point is it healthy, and at what point do we become?
The healthy question is when it's neurotic or psychotic. So if we broadly say, this is old-fashioned language. So neurotic, it's hurting you and it's hurting other people. Psychotic, you're deliberately hurting yourself, you're deliberately hurting other people. If you're on the other side of neurosis, you're fine. You're fine. Like it's okay. Sorry, at the back there was no. Yes, sir.
Just before you start the questions, to address that point, is it possible it's just a case of the either don't want to or can't process their own blind spots, and that's what's happening?
It's 100% the case they don't want to process their own blind spots. Blind spot is reality. Reality is no. No, totally verboten, totally haram. I don't want reality. That's why they don't want therapy. Because what therapy does is just blind spot. It's blind spot after blind spot. What else do we do? Anything else is not really therapy. You're just kind of talking around problems. But the therapist is going to say to you in gentle language, here is a blind spot. Are you aware of this? What should we do about it? How do we feel about it? Yes, sir? Yep.
So if we took the premise that codependency can come out of the two pillars as well.
It does, yeah.
Is it a case that codependents want to climb into someone else's egg, or is there a comparable alternative model that you can create?
No, I think probably that's the easiest way of framing it and mirroring it and layering one on top of the other is the codependent, the hardcore codependent is looking for a fantasy to climb inside of because they were raised in a narcissistic environment inside of their parents' cult. They leave the home. It's cold in the normal world. People are being sane and treating me fairly. Ugh. Like, that's gross. I want to be enslaved. I need a tyrant to tell me how to live, how to feel, how to function. And for a hardcore codependent, which I consider myself to be, life without abuse is not. Well, I barely function without abuse. I can't. I remember in my 20s thinking, I'm not even motivated to make money unless it's inside of an abusive relationship. Another question? Yes, sir.
One comment. I like what you said about the disconnect with, or the open relationship with fantasy.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that. But I think when you're working with a narcissist of either high intelligence, really high intelligence, or very fast speed of mind, it's harder to see. I think. But maybe messaging that to some people, they just wouldn't see.
Yes, yeah, because I suppose if you say it's like a computer, if the processor speed is higher, you won't see as much buffering. And there's a whole other issue there. If somebody, once you get past a certain point of IQ that's so far above average, if you're directing that IQ to manipulating people, you're going to run rings around average IQ people. And you've already got pre-existing programs in place. I think what really high IQ narcissists do is they have pre-existing programs that function as smoke screens, and they'll just pull it up. Like, they'll just go there, just deal with this, and the person's like, oh. And then whilst they're in they can manipulate from there. Last few questions, and then we'll take a break. Yes?
So with the whole codependence thing,
Yes.
I understand it, where with an narcissist, they get praised in the environment and then it'd be the bad object.
Yeah.
Now, if an individual was, for instance, at home a bad object, but a good object at school, could that turn them into a scapegoat, an empath, and not a narcissist?
Why would it?
No, would it? Because
you can't really say. You can't really say it. No, please. Oh my God! It is not physics. It's psychology.
I'm saying it from personal experience.
Yeah.
I'm in a family with 4 daughters, 1 year apart with all of us.
Yeah.
2 golden children who were given praise, and then there were bad objects as well. I can see why they've got the traits. Then there were 2 of us who were bad objects at home but good objects at school, etc. And I don't consider myself an autistic.
No, I don't think, sadly, as much as psychology is said to suffer from physics envy, it's very tempting to try and sort of reduce this to formulas, and I really wish we could. Like, we used to play games of cards when we were kids, and it's like, if you have the fire element card plus 6, then it beats the water element, and you can't do that. We have to look at it. Well, we don't work forwards. That's like forward engineering. The problem, the wonderful thing about psychology, and the wonderful thing if you like therapy, is you're constantly trying to work backwards. So you have a problem, and then you work backwards to explain the problem. What you're trying to do is be able to do it predictively. We can't, because let me just mention one factor: genetics, epigenetics. Big question mark. We just don't know. We just don't know. So some people in exactly the same environment and exactly the same pressures, they don't respond that way. And all we have, it's a weak answer, is wait, still talking, mouth still moving. That's the clue. That's the clue, is epigenetic, which means it's not just genetic, it's not just the environment, it's that the environmental pressures are causing certain genes to express themselves that otherwise wouldn't have. Your turn.
But do you think it depends on where the praise is coming from as well? Because parents are very influential in comparison to other places.
Maybe. Sorry, psychology. We love it. Maybe. But because maybe a church pastor is very, very charismatic, or the bully at school is, but I don't. We're both brother and sister. I don't care, but you do. Why? Do you know what I mean? It's working backwards. I like what you're trying to do, but your psychology will drive you mad, because we'll always be like, maybe, we don't know. I wish it could be formulaic. Yes?
And you mentioned institutional narcissism, and
Yeah.
I wondered if you think there's such a thing as
Institutional
institutional codependency.
codependency. How would that work? What would the structure be?
I work in the mainstream mental health services, and I think that one of the responsibility with gender, I feel a lot of the time I'm getting forced to respond in a codependent way to my patients.
Oh, nice.
Because, but I feel that the service
Yeah.
wants to
Yeah.
relate to people in a codependent way. So
Yes,
maybe
yes.
I want to set a boundary.
Yes.
But my service says, no, don't do that, because that's
Yes,
patient or
yes.
their parents are going to make it.
Yeah, that's yours. I'll steal it if you don't claim
Shut
it. What's the service you're working in at the moment?
I'm working in, ostensibly it's early intervention. If my case is this, like the Gable.
So I used to work for the probation service in Runcorn, and I never thought of it that way, but 100% yes. We were encouraged by the culture of the establishment to respond codependently in a boundaryless way. These were not criminals. First of all, you can't call them criminals. They're clients. You can't talk about it. It was.
I worked in a prison for a while.
Oh, okay.
We had a very interesting female governor, top governor.
Yeah.
She wanted us to call the prisoners residents.
Residents.
And even they told us to fuck off.
We're cons. We're not residents. No, I really like it, and get your articles out there, because I'll steal that. You'll be like, hey, he's talking about institutional codependency. That's mine. I'm a Scouser. I rob it all.